Alright, well, a lot of you guys seem to enjoy my first fast food story video, and a lot of you wanted a part 2, so you already know I got y'all. But yeah, so I'ma just get right into it. So for this story, we're heading back to Superfresh. If you need some context, make sure you check out part 1 if you haven't already. But you guys already know that me and Mike had a well-established beef going on in the workplace. Even though at this point he was just keeping his distance from me, the tension was always in the air. I mean, it can get pretty awkward when the guy who works a few feet away from you every day pretends you don't exist. Now, after I had pulled off the legendary kill him with kindness strategy and talked Mike's ear off until he left me alone, I thought those problems were behind me. But remember in the last video how I said they had brought in some new upper management? Well, this new upper management was terrible. Specifically this lady. Now, if I'm being completely honest, I don't even remember her name, but we'll just call her a stupid bitch. Alright, fine, we'll call her Lisa. Now, Lisa was a general manager, meaning she managed multiple locations, including my store. And when I first met Lisa, she was actually pretty chill and I had no issues with her. And since she was the general manager, she wasn't in the store working with us every day, but she would just pop by randomly to check how things were going. Now, by the time Lisa had started coming by the store, I thought the peak of Mike and I's feud had long passed us. But unbeknownst to me, yeah, we're using big words now, Mike wasn't finished with his plot to wipe me off the face of the weekly schedule. Because one day I came into work and noticed Mike was sitting at one of the tables talking to Lisa. And for some reason, they were constantly glancing back over at me. Now, like I said, even though we didn't fuck with each other, Mike and I hadn't really had any issues in a while, so I didn't really think anything of it. But it did make me a little uncomfortable since I finished prep for the morning pretty quick, and now I just had to look busy as the general manager and the wannabe manager kept looking at me. Then they finished their conversation, Mike went to the kitchen, and Lisa left the store. But now we fast forward to the next day. I just got to work, and this is a Tuesday. And every Tuesday morning, I had to clean the grill. Now, I clean the grill after every shift, but on Tuesdays, I had to really deep clean the grill. So as usual, I got my cleaning supplies, and I cleaned the shit out of that grill. I mean, like, seriously, it looked like it just came fresh out the box. I mean, that grill was so clean, you could eat off it. But yeah, seriously, the grill was spotless. And then Lisa came in. Now, Lisa walked into the store, walked behind the counter, where she was still damn near 20 feet away from the grill, glances over at it, and asked me if I cleaned it. Which, of course, I said, yes, I did, to which she replied, no, I don't think you did. Huh? When I tell you I could not believe the words that were coming out of her mouth, what the fuck do you mean you don't think I did? You looked at the grill for 3 seconds standing damn near on the other side of the store and you're telling me you don't think I cleaned it? So I told her she can check it to see if I cleaned it properly herself. Which I definitely did, by the way. Okay, that shit was spotless. But then this bitch turns her head away from me and goes, clean it with soap, and walks into the kitchen. Like, bro, it's 9 in the morning and I just finished cleaning the shit out of this grill for the last 30 minutes just for this bitch to fucking 360 no-scope my cleaning ability from across the store. And she obviously didn't want to come look at the grill because she knew she was going to look stupid if she did. So I'm just standing there alone, flabbergasted, because I don't know what the fuck I did to deserve this. But I figured, you know what, maybe she's just in a bad mood. Because remember, at this point, every interaction I've had with Lisa was pretty chill. And then Mike came in. And about 10 minutes later, I noticed that Mike is back chatting it up with Lisa again. Well, once again, constantly looking over at me. And that's when it hit me. Now that they had brought in a new general manager, Mike took this opportunity to try foiling my employment again. Now, I know a lot of you guys were saying I should have faded Mike a lot sooner, and trust me, I don't blame you, but at this point in time, I really needed a job, and even though I knew I could have gave Mike a better combo than anything on our menu, I just didn't want any more stress to deal with at this job that I already didn't want to be at. And at this point in time, I wasn't 100% sure if this was what was really going on, so I just hoped for the best. Now, my position at this job was like a part-time, full-time position, because I worked Monday to Friday every week, but I only worked for 6 hours, and I got a 15-minute break for lunch every day. Now, a few months into my sandwich artist career, I noticed that Mike would always take his break at the end of his shift so he could just go home right away. And honestly, as much as I'd hate to admit that I liked anything that came from Mike, I thought that was a pretty high IQ play. So I started doing the same thing. I just skip out on having an earlier break and clock out 15 minutes before the end of my shift and take my fat ass sandwich and go. Oh yeah, and by the way, since I was asked about what sandwich I made, I'm gonna break it down for you guys real quick. So I started off by slicing myself a fat piece of focaccia bread because it was the fluffiest and also because it didn't come pre-cut so I could cut myself a fatter slice. And then I'd spread on a light layer of garlic aioli on both slices and toast it on the grill. Then I'd throw on spicy chipotle mayo on both sides, double grilled chicken, caramelized onions, portobello mushrooms, hot sauce, chili flakes, a little bit of banana peppers, a very little bit of roasted red peppers, and if I was feeling extra fat and it was meat slicing day, pause, I would take the last bits of roast beef that we weren't going to use and marinate them in a bowl with hot sauce and then throw those on the grill for like 30 seconds per side and put those on the top layer of the sandwich and then finish it with Havarti cheese and a little salt and pepper. And then I grilled it extra crispy. I swear thinking about that sandwich is the only thing that makes me miss that place. But yeah, anyways. So I started clocking out 15 minutes early instead of taking my break. And mind you, like I said, Mike did this shit every day. I watched him. Not to mention, Mike was fucking late every day too, but no one seemed to give a shit. And I was never late. In fact, I was almost always early. I was there before the manager some days. So yeah, I've been doing this for a while now. My manager never said it was a problem, and she would say bye to me every day. So this just became my usual routine. But then one day I had made myself my sandwich, clocked out, and took that shit to go since I was trying to get home to, I don't know, probably play video games or some shit. But as I was walking out the store, I bumped into Lisa. And Lisa looked confused as to why I was leaving work. Then she looked at her watch and then back up at me and asked what I was doing. And I told her I'm going home because my shift is done. And at this point, it was only 5 minutes before my shift was supposed to end anyways, because I just spent my first 10 minutes of my break assembling my sandwich. So now Lisa's like, have you done this before? You're not supposed to leave until 2:30. And I said, yeah, because I just take my break at the end of my shift so I can make my lunch and go home. But then she was like, no, you can't do that. You're done at 2:30. You can't leave until 2:30. And for someone who used to always be so friendly, she was really fucking mad, which I thought was doing a little too much. And then she immediately goes to the manager and tells her to make sure I never do that again. Now, even though it was kind of a bummer, I wouldn't really care about this that much if it weren't for the fact that Mike does this shit every day. In fact, Mike was already gone when this happened because he left early. And as I'm being scolded by Lisa for this, all I can think of in my head is going 6'9" on this asshole and letting her know that the only reason I started doing it is because Mike does it all the time. But I knew I was better than that. So I just sat at a table for the next 2 minutes and ate some of my sandwich, which was super awkward, by the way, because even though I was clocked out already, Lisa was watching me like if I left before the clock hit 2:30, she was going to hunt down my family or something. But yeah, so it hits 2:30 and I leave, and now I'm just sitting at the bus stop just thinking about how I ended up in this situation. Oh yeah, and this was a Friday, so at the time I just figured whatever, let me enjoy my weekend, and hopefully I can come in on Monday and leave this behind me. And then Monday came. Now up until this point, I've talked about how I was working with the sandwich squad from hell, but this time I may have been the one to slip up. Because you see, every day I start work at 8:30 in the morning. So usually I'd wake up at 7 so I could shower and get ready and catch the bus to work. But this particular Monday, I had woken up after a long night of probably gaming or some shit, I don't know. And I rolled over and grabbed my phone, only to see that I had 5 missed calls and a text from my manager. Now for a second, I had no idea what was going on until I managed to force my eyes open wide enough to read the words, "Where are you?" And then I glanced up at the time, and it was 12:30. I was 4 hours late for work. Now at this point, I'm wide awake and I jump up to my feet. But then I realize I have no good excuse for why the fuck I'm coming to work 4 hours late. And I also know that Mike has been out to get me fired for a while, and Lisa seems to have taken his side. So I know that if I show up saying I was late because I slept in, this might be my last day. So instead, I did something that I'll admit I wasn't very proud of, but I did what I had to do. I texted my manager saying my brother crashed his bike and I was at the hospital. Yeah, I know, okay, not exactly the most morally right thing to do, but Mike had already took it to extremes, alright? I was fighting for my employment until I could find a better job. Plus, it wasn't really lying because I didn't really make the story up. It did actually happen, just like a few years ago or whatever. And look, I know that's kind of fucked up, but I'm gonna be real. I came into work the next day, and for the first time since I started working here, it felt like the cards were finally in my favor. I mean, Mike still refused to acknowledge my existence, but everyone else was super nice about it, and honestly, I just felt pretty bad for lying to some of my coworkers. I mean, I didn't want to, but the news already broke out in the store, so I couldn't exactly tell them I just slept in and didn't want to get fired. But Jerome, who was the dishwasher, and Jason and Sarah, who worked in the salad station, were all cool people, and I wanted to tell them, but they were already being mad nice about it, and it was just too late. But yeah, and then eventually I told them that my brother was okay and he just broke his leg, which in my defense actually happened, just not at this particular time, in which I used it as an excuse for sleeping in during my shift. But yeah, the next week was pretty chill, and things felt like they were going back to normal. Until one day, after a few months of ignoring me outside of the lunch rush, Mike decided he finally wanted to talk to me. And what did he want to talk about? My brother crashing his bike. But this wasn't out of sympathy or kindness, no. Mike wanted to know the details of this incident. He was asking what street it happened on, and why it wasn't on the news, just full on interrogating me like the fucking police. Now, first of all, this wasn't a fucking highway collision we were talking about, okay? I just said my bro hit a bump and fell off his bike and broke his leg, okay? That shit isn't exactly news material. So I tell him it was on a street near my neighborhood, and there was no reason for it to be on the news. And then Mike was just there like, okay. Didn't even try to act like he gave a shit. But I already knew what he was trying to do, so I just wrapped up the conversation and got to work. So the day goes by, and I'm wrapping up my post-lunch duties before it's time for me to go home, and I once again see the Terror Twins chatting it up at one of the tables having a good old time. And once again, glancing at me the whole time. Now, at this point, I was ready to just throw a fucking grill spatula at both of their heads, but I was just trying to go home, so I finished up, clocked out, and I left. So now we fast forward to the next day, and I had come into work a little later than usual. And by a little later than usual, I mean I started at 8:30 a.m. and I got in at 8:32 a.m. And I walked into the store, and Lisa's there. And as I walk over to clock in, Lisa turns to me and goes, "You're late a lot, huh?" Excuse me? Now, at this point, it was 8:33 a.m. that I was clocking in. 3 minutes late. I know, I'm horrible. And mind you, I have never been late for work before. Well, besides the day I slept in, but other than that, I have never been late or missed a single shift. So I'm like, what are you talking about? I'm here early every day, and I'm only 3 minutes late right now. And she goes, "I heard you come in late a lot." "Oh, you did, huh? Yeah, that's what you heard?" So I'm like, "No, I'm always early. Maybe you can just check the system and look at my time logs to see that I'm always early." And this bitch completely ignores what I said and goes, well, make sure you don't come in late again. Now, I don't know what was going on between her and Mike, but I can only assume that he had been French kissing her entire asshole because she didn't even work with me and had been hating on me ever since her and Mike got all buddy-buddy. And then Mike walks in, who was also late, by the way, and the two of them just start chatting it up. Like, hey, Lisa, how are you? Oh, I'm good, Mike. How are you? And they head over to the table to talk again. And that was the moment that I decided, fuck this shit. I'm selling drugs. Okay, but for real, at that moment, I saw the smug asshole Mike glancing over at me while talking to Lisa, and I knew it was time to hang up the jersey. You get it? Because Mike and hang up the jersey, like Jersey Mike's, and it's a sandwich shop.
Do you honestly think you're fucking funny? Seriously. You're a fucking ugly little cunt, mate, and if I ever see you, I'm gonna fucking slit your...
But yeah, so the following Monday, I handed in my 2 weeks, but I told them it was going to be a 1 week notice since I didn't want to come back another week after that. And honestly, I was being nice even giving them 1 week because I really should have just walked out on the spot. But I wanted to get a little extra bread on my last paycheck, so I just stuck out a final week. Now, Lisa and Mike weren't very happy that I wasn't giving them the full 2 weeks notice, and they talked shit about me doing it pretty much right there in my face, but I didn't really give a fuck. Like I said, I told them I was moving to jolly old England, and I had a plane to catch. But yeah, that pretty much sums up the majority of my experience working at Superfresh. I mean, there were some good things about it too, and some small things I could probably share. Maybe I could even pile them up into a third video. But as far as the evil management goes, that was pretty much the gist of it. I only really worked there for about 6 months before I ended up quitting.